What is your, I don't get paid enough for this shit, moment? Being told that I ruined a woman's Christmas because the supermarket I worked at was out of brandy-infused marmalade. When I was 18 and working at a retail store, a baby in his mother's arms took a shit so massive that his diaper couldn't contain it. A bunch ended up on the floor, and the mother asterisk ran away. Asterisk. I was not paid enough for that literal shit. Barista grabby customer grabs drink on the counter, tastes it, says, "This isn't mine. I ordered a vanilla latte. This is also iced." I proceed to tell her it's clearly not her drink she picked up then. I'm currently making grabby's drink, then have to double back to make the previous drink for the customer it was originally intended for. Again, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Customer service should definitely be paid more. I worked at a heating and air conditioning company doing bookkeeping. I was being trained by the company's accountant. If I made a mistake, the owner would literally scream at me full voice. I overheard him talking to his brother, and his brother had told him not to scream at me. The owner said, "You have to tear them down to build them up." I decided I wasn't going to take another day of his screaming after that. I ran the entire company's financials and general management for $14 per hour. I had a meeting with the owner telling him I need a raise and to hire an assistant. He told me I wasn't business-minded and should be a stay-at-home mom. I quit the next day. Bagging groceries at a major supermarket. The manager came over to tell me that I needed to clean up the bathroom. An elderly gentleman fell off the toilet while pooping and it was a literal shit show. Apparently I was the most qualified because I was 16. I was handed a broom and a dustpan. I shit you not, sorry had to. My reward for going above and beyond the call of duty, $5 in store coupons. Sometimes dreams really do come true. First day at the health department. I'm left at the reception desk alone while literally everyone else in the office went out to a farewell lunch for the person I was replacing. As I was on 90-day probation, wasn't yet licensed and badged, my pay was $7.96 per hour. I'm sitting at reception, and some redneck comes in with a leaking garbage bag and drops it on my desk. It contains a newly beheaded javelina head. His buddy had been bitten, and it needed to be tested for rabies ASAP. I had no fucking clue what to do with a leaking garbage bag of javelina head. He couldn't wait for others to return, so he left a number and split. Turns out, we don't do that sort of thing at the health department. Guy refused to come back. Worked at a retail store. Fiends would come in occasionally looking to steal shit, and the worst we could do legally was ask them to leave, but my boss insisted we get physical with them, to which I obviously told her fuck no. I watched her chase one out of the store one day and she screams at me since I'm standing by the door like, "Tackle him," and I'm like, "No LMAO edit." Wow, thanks for the awards, folded hands. And yes, I agree with you all calling my ex-boss a dumbass. She absolutely did not operate on company protocol a lot of the time. When I was a 911 telecommunicator, taking all those suicide calls, domestics with children, medical calls, people dying, officers getting shot, etc. Did it for 16 years before enough was enough. When I was doing 90% of my boss's job in hopes of a full-time promotion that I had been promised for 3 years, and he took all the credit and told me my promotion wasn't in the budget. I worked at Circuit City when I was 17. Heard a noise of packaging being opened in the movie section, found a guy crouched down cutting open DVD boxes and stealing the discs. He looked at me, held his knife out and said, "Got a problem?" I just replied, "I don't get paid enough for this shit," and backed off. I went to the back room of the warehouse area to call a manager to tell them what happened. Never could get a hold of anyone, so I just chilled in the warehouse area for a half hour to decompress. Bartender here. Grown man threw a lit cigarette at my face and threatened me with physical violence. This was a year or so ago, but a 45, maybe older, year-old man behaving that way towards a 24-year-old female was definitely one of those moments. Plus the people getting handsy and occasional cleaning of vomit. I do not get paid enough. I have a mildly irrational fear of spiders. I was asked to help clean out an old storage area, shed-type building. It was covered in dust and a ton of these big black spiders, but a big enough space that I felt fine. Until my supervisor handed me a leaf blower and asked me to go through a back hallway with it. Opened the door to the hallway and it was cramped, just tall enough to be a little over my height and just wide enough for me to walk through. Except there was no light, so it was pitch black, until I held up my phone flashlight and saw the largest mess of tangled webs filled to the absolute brim with thousands of the big black spiders. Straight up refused to walk down that thing, especially with a leaf blower. Like, no thanks, I don't want to create a spider tornado. My supervisor was irritated with me that I refused to do this, but I would rather be fired than walk through the arachnid hell hallway for $10 an hour. While working as a student custodian on campus, I had to clean vomit out of a urinal. There is no easy, not gross way of cleaning that. Not worth the minimum wage. Grocery store cashier. The customer was angry because her cereal had rung up wrong. I called a price check and this lady berated me the whole time. I recall that she accused me of trying to steal from her. Said she was going to get me fired. I looked at her and said, I make $7.25 per hour no matter how much you pay for this cereal, so I do not give a shit how this situation turns out. She stared at me in shock. The price check comes back saying the price scanned correctly. Silence. I said, so do you want the cereal or not? She said, yes, and that was that. She did not complain to the manager. Fishmonger in a grocery store. We got a large number of lobsters in, soft-shelled and already dying. So my manager decided we could at least sell their tails. Apparently lobsters don't really have a central nervous system, so when you sever the tails and put their tails on ice they freaking run away. So I had to chase these tails down because they've escaped into the rest of the display case, onto the floor, and hidden under our prep tables. Never again. Working at a large chain retail store. Come across a spot of shit in the toy aisle. Oh, look. A mess for me to clean. And what's that over yonder? Another one not far away. Nice little trail of brown nuggets left behind and leading me on the worst scavenger hunt ever all the way across the store to the bathrooms. What do I find waiting for me inside? The mothership turd, sitting proudly in a small heap on the floor in the corner. Merely a few feet away from an actual, factual, functioning toilet. Turns out a kid was in the toy aisle with their parent, and couldn't hold it in any longer, followed by a mad dash to the bathroom. My supervisor literally said they felt bad for me, and I didn't get paid enough by corporate. Raise? No $5 gift card. Yeah. Same place, also came in for a routine bathroom check, go into the stall and find shit on the wall. The strange part? It's at shoulder height and streaking down the wall like shit mascara from the stall crying after whatever it was had been done. I have no clue what happened, and to asterisk this very day, asterisk I still like to imagine someone doing a handstand inside this tiny stall and blasting a butt nugget against the wall. Working in a psychiatric hospital, 19F, extremely psychotic, pregnant W twins young woman would only talk to the girl in the cactus scrub top. Me, naive me wanted to help this woman, the only way she said she would cooperate as if we were behind closed doors, which would not happen, obviously, but we did the best to make her comfortable within protocol. She was also completely naked. Anyways, security in the door, 2 staff outside and me trying to console this psychotic woman who loved my cactus scrub top. She decides she finally wants to get dressed and wear my shirt, so she pushes me up against the way and tried to take it off. Security was on her quick and I was out the door. $15 entry-level job, pretty much fresh out of high school, one of many stories. Edit. For those of you asking, my title was a mental health technician at an acute psychiatric hospital. Experience was about 1Y in healthcare. Good healthcare volunteer work for students as always, nursing, retirement homes as well as Special Olympics. You can never go wrong with those. There are always programs locally if you're in the US. I'm a public librarian. I was helping someone in the computer room and turned to tell someone he needed to keep his exclamations at the video he was watching down. Just then, the woman I was helping leapt aside because the man I was shushing pissed himself. It ran down onto the jacket he had tied around his waist, down the chair, onto the ground. Turns out he'd snuck in alcohol and was totally blackout drunk. I told him he had to leave. He put the piss-covered jacket on and stumbled out. As I returned with gloves and cleaning supplies, another patron decided this was a good time to complain about some kids who were making noise. I took a deep breath and said, this is a good time for us all to appeal to our higher selves and do our best in the moment. Please just adapt for a minute. Then I thought about the student loans I took out for the master's degree as I scrubbed up piss. When my patient threatened to kill me and my family, then brought out a handmade wooden knife from under his bed. After 4 months of not seeing my family because I was working full-time and only getting 1 day off a week, I finally quit without notice when they were gonna make me close last Thanksgiving. I had already requested and approved the day off a month prior. I left and never came back. The GM even tried pulling the, "You can't quit, you're fired, ah ha ha." When I was 20 I had 3 jobs. I worked as a bank teller from 8 to 4, then as a closing shift manager at a coffee shop from 5 to 10, then as an overnight janitor from 11 to 2 a.m. This wasn't every day, but it was enough that it equated to about 80 hours a week between the 3 jobs, and yes, you can imagine this would lead to burnout real fast. So at the overnight janitor gig my boss comes over to me and asks me to come to the office for a review. This was weird. All I did was mop floors on a production line that made air train brakes. But whatever. I go into his office and he closes the door behind me and pulls out a gay porn magazine and starts asking me about different dicks and put his hand on my shoulder. I was surprisingly calm and just said I don't like dicks and went back to work. Then it hit me what happened. I called in sick the rest of the week and picked up my final paycheck when he wasn't there. It was a hard enough job without being sexually harassed for $8.50 an hour. I used to work in a mall music store. Back when that was a thing. There was a corporate policy to play new music regularly, you know, because that's the fucking thing you're trying to sell. My boss, every single day she worked, would play the entire Madonna album, Ray of Light. Hours of the same 8 fucking songs. For most of a year, until it was either go mad, commit murder, or bail. I bailed. That music franchise went under a little over a year later. I hold Madonna and my old boss responsible. Working for a popular grocery store. The amount of people that think the workers are stupid are astounding. The produce all have codes and sometimes I forget. To the customer, this looks like I simply don't know what a broccoli is. They're like, "It's broccoli," in a condescending tone, and I just have to brush it off. It happens so many times, and though it's not terrible, it really gets me down sometimes. Most people assume retail workers are people with no goals, or even bums. That's not true at all. Everyone I work with, including myself, is planning to go to college or already enrolled. Edit. I just came back from an especially crummy shift and I have awards. I don't know what these are, but I feel special, so thank you, you winking face. Doing volunteer work and some busybody started bossing me around like they were in charge, a neighborhood association type person. I told them to back the fuck off. It took a couple of seconds for people to realize that the person barking orders wasn't a boss, but an asshole that was used to being in control. Edit. I didn't expect this to blow up. Just to clarify, if the person is in a position of responsibility, such as treasurer or coordinator, then they have a reason to delegate tasks to some extent. I also didn't use the words, "back the fuck off," it had the same impact and pulled the rug from under him. I don't think it's nice to be overly rude in return because a lot of ignorant people are basically ignorant in the true sense. If you find yourself in a position that you're in charge of organizing an event with volunteers, then you'll need to have a degree of humility that isn't often seen enough in business. I work as a welder fabricator for a very small company, and when we have slow days my boss sends me to his house to help on his newly built bed and breakfast. I laid a lot of the bricks and build the showers and so on, which I don't mind. One day we get to his house and he just points to a huge stack of mixed garbage and tells me to sort it and drive it away. It took the whole damn day and some AF. The old cardboard and stuff was wet and smelled bad. All I could think was minimum wage and I have to deal with his private shit. Working $10 an hour in Disney World on an attraction. There's one position called Merge, where your job is to stop the standby line and send the FastPass line. FastPass is normally based on reservation, but if another ride breaks down in the park, they'll give out FastPasses that can be used pretty much anywhere. One day almost every ride in the park was broken except ours, which meant everyone was coming to our FastPass line. I was sending 150 to 200 people through FastPass for every 10 I was sending through standby, for roughly an hour, and I didn't even come close to clearing the line. The people in the standby line were screaming at me, starting chants, taking pictures of me and my name tag, and just generally being awful. My favorite was one guy repeatedly screaming, "I know this isn't your fault man, but this is BULLSH*T, in front of his 6 kids. I just calmly stood there and just kept saying to everyone, sorry folks, but I really don't have any control over this. I got off easy though. I know people that have been pushed, punched, and spit on amongst other things. A bunch of my friends ended up breaking down crying while they were working merge. If you go to Disney, do your research on how to avoid lines, and remember that the cast members are people too. Manager at a grocery store I worked in my teens refused to pay the waste management bill for several months. When they finally came and emptied the dumpster, there were still mounds of trash laying about around the area. He had me go out and clean all of it up alone. I didn't have any protective gear or supplies whatsoever, and was out in 100+ degree weather. I was only given a bunch of trash bags to put it into, and when I went in to ask for help, I was just given a shovel. I worked one more day after that, and after just being given more work to do without so much as a good job or thanks, I never went back. I used to work at Old Country Buffet, and there were kids who would eat until they threw up like all the time. This one case that is seared into my mind was when I was once fixing up the salad bar and I heard, "Billy run!" screamed from an ignorant parent, and then I see this 12-ish-year-old boy running to the bathroom, only he didn't make it. An unholy amount of undigested red Jell-O came exploded out of him like a fucking volcano all over the Caesar salad, the floor next to the cash register, and on about 5 or 6 diners waiting in line to get in. It looked like he had literally vomited his guts out in an arc about 10 feet in diameter. I had to sweep up the chunks with a broom until a dishwasher with a mop could take care of the rest. The plumber owner of a mobile home called and said they had a stinky yard. I could smell it when I pulled up. The mobile home was new and had only been set up for about 8 months. While setting it up, someone didn't tighten a no-hub band of the toilet in the kids' bathroom. 8 months of flush toilet was all over the ground, under the home, and had just started being noticed outside. I told the homeowner to call the guys that set it up to come fix it. I wasn't crawling under there. When I had to stop someone from fucking their cat edit, I work with those who have physical and mental disabilities. I was giving the client some time alone in their room when I heard a screeching sound. I leapt up and opened the door and found they had their pants down, penis erect, and a very pissed off cat running out the door. They no longer own that cat. I worked for a small college. The president's secretary thought that most things were above her pay grade, and at one of the busiest times of the year for my office decided that I should put in 80+ hours to clean her data and get something she needed done. After getting it finished, she decided that she wanted the whole thing changed. I broke down. I went to the doctor in the midst of a full-blown panic attack and was given a note for 2 weeks off work, which meant they had to use what I did or do it themselves. I came back to work and resigned. When a thick stream of sweat drained out of this girl's cell phone case, I had to explain to her that her phone had water damage and that she shouldn't work out with her phone in her bra, all the while trying to be professional and not gag while cleaning the mess. I sold phones at Sprint. Thanks for watching. See you later.